Throwing fantasy drafts here. He's a few tight ends I look to target and draft in my leagues this year. The first guy, Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals. So last season, Ertz traded from the Eagles finally to the Cardinals, and he had a resurgence once he went there on the season. 7 catches, 763 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. So Ertz right now going about 8th and 9th round in fantasy drafts here. Now with DeAndre Hopkins suspended the first 5 or 6 games of the season, I believe, Zach Ertz, he's going to be one of the main catch passes over there in Arizona. And he's a guy that's a good possession receiver. He's a good target in the end zone as well, red zone here as well as Zach Ertz. And him and Kyle Murray actually had a good rapport last season. So I think Ertz, where he's going right now, 8th and 9th round is perfect for a tight end who could put up good numbers. And like I mentioned, now full season with Arizona, he's definitely going to take off early in the season, where last season you had to wait till week 6 or 7 before he really got anything going. So Zach Ertz still could run the routes, still can make the plays, and he still can find the end zone. And this season, he's a tight end I definitely look to target, especially with Hopkins out. We're going to see more targets and more opportunities for him earlier on in the season. The next guy's Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys. So Schultz had a monster breakout season last year, and the Dallas Cowboys franchise tagged him last season. 78 catches, 808 receiving yards, 104 targets, and 8 receiving touchdowns. So right now, Amari Cooper's gone. He got traded to the Browns. Michael Gallup, he's hurt with the torn ACL. And James Washington, who they signed in the offseason, broke his foot. So right now, it's pretty much in the passing game, CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz as the 2 top options to go with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard as the backfield options. And we know the tight end's been Dak Prescott's best friend throughout his career, with Jason Witten and now with Dalton Schultz as the next guy up. So Schultz, I don't know if he'll put up the numbers like he did last season, but he's definitely get peppered with more targets this season, especially with the injuries and especially with Amari Cooper out of town. So Schultz right now, he's going 5th to 6th round. That's a little bit early, I believe, for him to go. But if you could get him in the 7th, 8th round, I think it's a good bargain price to get Dalton Schultz in your fantasy draft, because it was 1 year. He could have been a 1-year wonder, but I don't think he will be with all the changing parts on this Cowboy offense and him and CeeDee Lamb looking like the 2 top options. So right now, Dalton Schultz, I think he could have another good season, and he's going to play in an offense that's going to look to push the ball down the field and make some plays with a pretty good quarterback in Dak Prescott. The next guy, Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins. Everyone thinking about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but Mike Gesicki last season was very solid for most of the year. 73 catches, 780 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. So right here, Mike Gesicki, he's a guy that could go out there and make plays for fantasy owners. And he was a Tua favorite and a tight end blanket. So now with coverages rolling to Tyreek Hill, and obviously Jalen Waddle, he's going to have one-on-one coverage or even zone coverage in the middle of the field here. Gesicki, we know he's a playmaker. We know he's a red zone target. And I think this season he's definitely going to pay big dividends for fantasy owners. And right now he's going late in fantasy drafts, anywhere from the 12th to the 13th round. I've been seeing him in some mocks. So right now, he's definitely a bargain bin type of ad towards the end of your draft, and a guy you could plug into that tight end position. And most weeks than not, he'll perform and put up decent numbers. So Mike Gesicki's definitely a tight end I would target this week. The next tight end's Gerald Everett of the Los Angeles Chargers. So right here, this Charger offense is loaded and prime and ready here. So they got Austin Eckler, who's a great running back. You got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And now you got Gerald Everett, who can make plays. Last season was Jared Cook, but Everett's definitely an upgrade over Cook. And we saw flashes last season late in the year with him with the Seattle Seahawks. Here is Everett. Last season for him, 48 catches, 478 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 fumble losses. So right now, he's a guy not getting drafted at all, or a guy going in the last few rounds of your fantasy drafts. But he's definitely a tight end that I think is a sleeper this year, Gerald Everett. He's a big red zone target. He runs like a wide receiver, is this guy. And he's playing with one of the best quarterbacks in all fantasy football in Justin Herbert. So this Charger team, they think they're prime for a big run this season in a very tough AFC West. But right now, Gerald Everett, a guy not many people are talking about, and a guy I think could go out there and make plays and be a good fantasy tight end. And you could wait to the later rounds to get him as well, with everyone else paying attention to other tight end options. And the final tight end I look to target and draft going into the year is Dawson Knox of the Buffalo Bills. And Knox, he had a good season last year, 49 catches, 587 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns, and he missed about in the month of the season with a broken wrist. So Dawson Knox, he's a good playmaker. Him and Josh Allen had a good rapport last season. And this Bill offense, they're going to be flinging the ball all over the field all season, early and often. So Dawson Knox, as long as he stays healthy, he could go out there and make plays for fantasy owners. And he's a tight end I definitely will look to target and get on my team. Right now, he's going about 8th or 9th round in most fantasy leagues, and that's fine for a guy in a high-powered offense with a quarterback that gets him the ball in the red zone and down the middle of the field. And with Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, big targets in that offense, he's going to get a lot of single coverage or zone coverage where he'll be open in the middle of the field. This is Dawson Knox. So that's a few tight ends I look to target here, entering fantasy drafts within the next few weeks.